I'm Mike Odenbeck.
I'm Alex Corley.
And these are our
Soberless Thoughts.
And tonight we have another special guest with us. It's Jeremy Bam Bam Boom Boom Wham Bam. Thank you, ma'am. Iron Mike, the professor, the Southern dandy, Flyboy, the golden child. 10 goddamn minutes on either side of putting the ham in the smokehouse, Sutherland. Is that about right?
That's close, man. There's about 5 or 6 that's been tacked on in the last couple of years, but not bad, man. Not bad.
Yeah. I was surprised I was like, damn, he wrote it down and everything. Holy
I thought he was just going to do a couple and then just sort of trail off or stop or something, but man, he committed.
Yeah, I thought he was just going to start making shit up.
Yeah, buddy.
Dude, I love it.
No one would know the difference.
It's amazing. Yeah. I love it. That's my favorite part. It's my favorite part of your guys' podcast. By the way, Jeremy Sutherland, co-host of Obtuse Angles, which is one of the greatest wrestling podcasts on this side of Vince McMahon's Big Black Dildo.
Well, that's the thing, man. It's not been a wrestling podcast for 8 years.
Yeah, but you guys still talk about it. Your last episode was about Vince McMahon.
Kyle talks about wrestling. I've not been a wrestling fan since like 98 and 99 maybe.
Oh shit, the tea's getting spilled now.
Did you just give up on it?
I did. Yeah, it's awful to watch, man. Look, I stay so fucking desperate because my brain is just an encyclopedia of random movies that it's nuts. It feels like I've seen everything under the sun. I don't care a lot about TV. I love movies. And I'm always looking for something new to watch. And so recently, this has been maybe 5-6 weeks ago, I was like, you know what? I'm going to try to get back into wrestling. I'm going to try in earnest to enjoy the product that the WWE's putting out now. It's been coming up on 25 years, I think, since I've watched an entire episode of Monday Night Wrestling.
Wow.
So I sit down and it is fucking unwatchable. It is absolutely the cringiest, corniest shit I think I've ever seen in my entire life, man. And it kills me to, because I'm a former indie wrestler. Kyle's a former indie wrestler. Somehow we didn't meet until we started doing stand-up, which is weird because we worked for a lot of the same people, a lot of the same promotions, and we never ran into each other on the road. We didn't meet until I started doing comedy in 2014. But it's terrible, man. It's a mess. A bunch of just fucking people I don't recognize, and there's all this women's wrestling, and I don't understand it, and I don't get it, and it's my nature to punch things I don't understand. So I punched my TV real hard, and now I got to go buy a new one because I don't understand wrestling.
I tried. I haven't watched WWE since I was a kid, and I saw that. What was it, on Hulu or something? I can watch WWE on with my Hulu subscription.
Yeah.
And I was just flipping through, and it had this past WrestleMania for free to watch on there. And this was just like maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I was like, hey, I'll sit down and watch that after the kids go to bed. I haven't watched WWE WrestleMania in, like you said, probably 25 years. So I sit down and I'm like watching a little bit, and then I'm like, this is ridiculous. So I just start like fast forwarding through it. Like, I just want to get to the main event, the last match, right? Whoever's fighting for like the WWE championship. Yeah. And I get to it, and it's Cody Rhodes and whoever the guy who wants to be The Rock is. And I'm like, okay, right before everybody comes to the ring, they do an advertisement for the new WWE video game with Cody Rhodes on the cover of the video game.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I just look at my wife and I'm like, well, he's going to win. They're not going to put him on the cover of the fucking video game if he doesn't win tonight. So,
well, there's just no kayfabe anymore. If you're not familiar, kayfabe is, I guess it's what wrestlers consider the code. If you rearrange letters in kayfabe, it spells be fake. I guess it's the way that they protect the legitness of the business, which, yeah, no one's done that in 25 years. I mean, they just don't, since the age of the internet and shit, they don't protect the business like they used to be, or like they used to do rather, excuse me. And it's hard to watch because I don't know, man. It's just very bad. Wrestling is just very unwatchable, and I can't even talk to Kyle about it because that motherfucker he's like the Rain Man. Have you seen like these autistic savants that can tell you what day a certain day of the year was on from like the 1930s? He's like that with wrestling, and it's cool, I guess. I mean, if you gotta be good at something, you know.
Yeah.
But I try to tell him just how it's garbage and it's not what it used to be. Because I came up in the NWA, WCW, the Georgia Championship, World Class, all this stuff from the 80s. You know, and I'm 5 years older than Kyle, which doesn't sound like a lot. But when it comes to your references in pop culture, 5 years can be a lifetime. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there's things that I loved about it that's just not there anymore, and it's just, I don't know, it's so hard to watch, man. But female wrestlers now, they're getting a 50-50 booking on every show. There's just as many female wrestlers on the card, or there's just as many female matches, and that's really nice. And in fear of kind of sounding sexist, I enjoy those for no other reason than that there are half-naked women on the screen wrestling each other. And that is shitty,
understandable,
and sexist, but 100% true.
And you know, that's why WWE probably still has the following that it has, and the WNBA doesn't.
Well, there's always going to be fat guys who can't get laid. So as long as there's fat guys who can't get laid, there's going to be wrestling.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's actually a guy at work that's like really into it, and he's been trying to he was talking to me about going to. Well, no, I mean, maybe, I don't know. Yeah. He's into wrestling, so
there it is.
Could be, you know, yeah.
He's trying to get in, like he's trying to get into wrestling, as in he's trying to break into the business.
Well, no, he's been into wrestling, but he's been trying to get me to go to like the local events up here in like Cincinnati. Of course, he's doing it because he's like, dude, he apparently goes to these things, just pounds beer, and I guess you can just like scream and yell shit at the wrestlers, and it's like part of the show, and it's like his jam.
The more racist and homophobic, the better.
Right, just yell crazy shit. People that have worked with who have gone with him, they're like, dude, he makes it so much more fun. It's like, but it's like one of those things. I don't know if that's proper etiquette. Like if I was a friend and I took him to a comedy show and he's like, I'm going to make this better by heckling, I'd be like, you're going to shut the fuck up is what you're going to do.
You're about to be made look stupid in front of all these people. No, and wrestling, man, no, we love that. We call them we used to call them the true believers. Like they fucking, they will get in your face. Yeah, I worked as heel a lot, or bad guy, and you come out to the ring and you get these true believers, and man, they'd run up to the guardrail and they'd fucking yell shit at you, and then you got a security guard in between. As long as that security guard was in between you, boy, they were tougher than a coffin nail, man. They'd get in your face, and once the security guard stepped out of the way, they'd go back to their seats. But that's fun, man. It's fun to watch how people watch how seriously they take it, man. They really are some fucking Looney Tunes out there.
Hell yeah.
I think I stopped watching WWE when I started watching UFC.
Okay.
And that was like in the Chuck Liddell era, you know what I'm saying?
Sure. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's good stuff, man. I still watch some combat sports here and there. Like if there's I don't guess I follow it too stringently, but if there's the last UFC I watched was UFC 300. If there's like a really good card, or if there's just fighters that I recognize, which I haven't kept up really well with combat sports in probably 10 years, but if they every once in a while I'll catch a UFC pay-per-view, and for my money, man, they're just as, if not more entertaining than watching WrestleMania or SummerSlam or Royal Rumble or something like that.
Yeah, they just don't produce good actors though. That's one thing.
No, they sure as shit don't. I know exactly what you're talking about. You're talking about that damn Roadhouse remake, aren't you?
Yes.
Holy shit, man! Halfway through it, I got up and just slammed my dick in the door and went to bed. I was so pissed. I hated that movie. I got AIDS. That movie gave me fucking AIDS. I hate that movie. I hate Conor McGregor. I had no problem with him until I watched that movie.
Oh my God.
He's such a terrible actor.
It's horrible, and it ruined the movie. I feel like it was a halfway decent movie up until
no, sir.
I feel like it definitely wasn't the original, but it was halfway decent. I feel like until
oh my God, the original with legends like Patrick Swayze and Sam Elliott and Terry Funk.
So amazing, dude.
Yeah. Terry Funk was in that. People forget he was in that movie. What's so funny, what always tickled me about that was when you put Terry Funk in the ring, back in his heyday of the 70s and 80s, when he was in the ring, man, he looked tiny compared to most of the other wrestlers. And you put him in Roadhouse up against other actors, and he just fucking towers over them. He just looks like a big slobbery meathead. Yeah. But in the wrestling world, man, he was considered one of the tiny people. I had the same complex when I ran into Ric Flair at an airport. I was picking up somebody from the airport, and I saw Ric Flair, and I thought, holy shit, because he looks tiny in the ring when you juxtapose him against guys who are 6'8", 320 pounds. He looks little bitty, but Ric Flair is actually a really big dude. And that's something that always just struck me as weird. You see Terry Funk, he looks so small, but standing next to Patrick Swayze, man, he could have chewed Patrick Swayze up and spit him out.
I showed my 17-year-old son. I was like, because my wife refused to watch the new Roadhouse with me.
Good. Yeah. You married a good one there.
And she's like, wait till you can watch it with your son and just you two watch it. I was like, all right.
Yeah.
So he comes over and I'm like, hey, let's watch this movie. He's like, well, what's it about? And I'm like, dude, I have no idea. So we watched
the greatest cooler in the business.
So we watched the trailer for it, and he's like, I mean, I guess it looks okay. And I was like, yeah, it's a remake of this movie that was made back in the 80s. And he's like, well, what's that about? And I was like, well, let's watch a trailer. So we watched the trailer of the original one, and he's like, that one looks horrible.
Man, you know what? That qualifier is entirely unnecessary. The qualifier of made back in the 80s, because that movie really is timeless. I mean, fashion and music and shit aside, because all that shit is very dated. But that movie really is kind of timeless, man. It's a story that, was there at the beginning of time. The story's there to begin. It's basically the premise for every single Western that John Wayne ever did.
Right.
So there's a bully in the town. So the townspeople gather up the money to hire a cooler to come in and whip his ass, and then he has an epic battle at the end. Like that's 14 John Wayne movies. And they just took it out of the Old West and they put it in a bar. And I'll tell you what, man, I will buy a ticket to that shit every single day before I try to convince myself that Jake Gyllenhaal is intimidating. There's nothing intimidating about it. Boo.
The girl in the new movie even said that to him. Basically you're the main character in a Western movie.
What a dumb thing to say.
She had that line in the movie.
No, that is true though, man. If you think about it, that's like that dude. That's Rio Bravo. That's El Dorado. That's like 4 Clint Eastwood movies. I mean, it's always the same. That was the plot of the Magnificent Seven.
Yeah,
that was the plot of. I mean, I can sit here all night. It's just, I mean, it's a classic Western story, American, very American, Western story.
We lost Alex.
Yeah, I saw that. That's fine, man. He wasn't really. I was getting tired of him anyway.
All right. Well, we'll just keep talking until he comes.
Yeah, man, for
reappears. So what exactly are you guys talking about on Obtuse Angles now that you're not a wrestling podcast?
Yeah, we were only a wrestling podcast for about the first 8 months. And then I got tired of it after like the 3rd episode. So I just just not being as big a wrestling fan as I used to be. But there were episodes where we would talk, 80s wrestling pay-per-views, and that gave me an excuse to go back and watch some of those old Starcades and Great American Bashes, and even some of the old WWF stuff like Survivor Series and all those old SummerSlams and WrestleManias from the 80s. When we talk stuff like that, that was a blast because that was just reliving my childhood. But anytime he tried to move forward into the new wrestling, I kind of mentally checked out. But after about eight or so months, man, our numbers were just trash. I'm not even going to say what they were awful. And then we switched to a different format and started doing more pop culture driven stuff, more movies and music and comic books and all this weird shit. And then we kind of moved into true crime. We started doing a lot of true crime, and then excuse me, I think we really cracked the code when we did the DB Cooper episode, which I think we did in like 2017 or something, 2016 even maybe.
Yeah.
It's about 2 years into the show. That episode, still to this day, is our most downloaded episode that we ever did. And once we switched and got away from wrestling and started doing more stuff that people sort of could relate to, like the true crime and movies and greatest this and greatest that, that's when the numbers started coming in. And we were sort of on a train there. We really took off. Like the numbers were almost astronomical compared to what they were when we were just a lowly wrestling podcast. And it is because it's not a niche. And we talk about, naturally, if you have a greater subject matter, a broader subject matter, you're going to have a wider audience. And it's just simple. So moving away from wrestling, I think, was probably about the best thing we ever did.
I was going to say, I feel like ours, we have very similar podcasts, which I don't know if you've ever met this girl, Hannah, who listens to both of our podcasts. She used to work with me and Kyle, actually. And I remember asking her, like, kind of like tips, like, hey, what do you think of our podcasts? And it was funny because she was like, you all kind of have like, it's two guys talking whatever. She was like, she was kind of talking about the differences where, like, I noticed, because I've listened to some of your all's episodes where you all hit more on like serial killers sometimes and stuff like that. And one of the things that made me laugh, she was like, she's like, the difference between you all, she was like, they are a little bit more like inappropriate, and then you all are like appropriately inappropriate. And I'm like, I don't even know what that means, but thank you.
It's like a PG-13 versus an R or something.
Right. Maybe. And I was like, okay. And I was like, I don't think you've listened to enough of our episodes.
How dare you, bitch?
Yeah.
Say something like that about my podcast. Right. We are disgusting. You hear me? Disgusting.
Yeah. We have had to tone it down mainly because family members have because of
Alex's family members.
Don't even get me started. My mom tells me.
Yeah, right. Not my family members.
Because of our in-laws, actually. So I think that's another. Are you and Kyle? Are you guys married or no?
Kyle and I married to each other?
Are you guys married individuals?
Because it feels like it. No, Kyle's married. I actually just came out of a 3-year relationship.
Okay.
Oh shit.
Yeah, man.
Because I feel like that was all the time that I've been listening to your guys' podcast. I feel like that's one of the things that is a difference between you guys and us is we are married guys that can't say things that you guys.
Yeah. Well, no, the thing about it is that Kyle is married, and he hasn't been married the whole show. He just got married in 2020, I think. So he's only been married about 4 years of the 10 or so years that we've been doing this, but his wife hates him. His wife hates his guts. She hates everything he does. So she'll never listen to the show, so he loves that. That's his favorite part of the show is that he has an hour every week to not have his life scrutinize everything he says. His wife, scrutinize everything he says. So I think that's why he tends to be. Because if you listen to the show, we're both gross. We're both pigs. But Kyle's a little more so. because he has to stay so grounded because he has a very sweet, a very nice wife who's very normal, and she's not going to stand for him being a piece of shit. So luckily enough, she hates him and doesn't listen to anything he does, so he kind of gets away with it.
See, I think that's where we messed up, to be honest with you, is like our wives were trying to be like
that's what you get marrying someone supportive.
You know, they wanted to help us out. They wanted to support us. So they were telling like family, friends, coworkers. And then like, the third episode, we're talking about like, the times we got caught jerking off or something. And then like, then she's like, I can't believe.
Yeah.
I told my coworkers to listen to you all, and you're over here talking about this. And it's just like, so
I'll tell you what's fun, man.
Stop listening to us. So,
hey, you know what? Be happy that you're married, because dating is awful, because invariably and inevitably they'll always find out that I'm on a podcast, whether they it's the internet age. We do a lot of online dating. So I'll be talking with a girl on a dating app or something, and then inevitably she Googles me or looks me up on Facebook and it comes across the podcast, because my name is all over the fucking my name is literally on the podcast. They always find it.
Right.
And I don't get a fair shake that way, because they go on there, they listen to it, and they listen to me be a complete piece of shit for like 470 something hours. So however many, I think we're somewhere between 460 and 480 episodes at roughly an hour apiece. So, these women will have just hours and hours of me just being the worst human being in the world. And I just want to tell them, like, wait, I virtue signal very well. Don't leave. Come back. What are you doing?
Right.
Like, so they get an unfair jump on me,
Yeah. Hey,
I can't tell you how many conversations I've had, that my wife has had with me, where she just sat me down and was like, you do realize that I share your show on my social media. And how dare you say what you just said? And I'm like,
how dare you say shit on your podcast?
I'm like, just don't listen. Don't share it anymore. Like, it's okay. Nobody
forgetting
listens
entirely
to it
that that's an option, right? Yeah, stop sharing it.
It's okay.
And get a divorce. She sucks.
So
I'm teasing.
But I think she's pretty much done sharing. And it's, I don't know if you know this or not, but Alex and I are married to sisters.
Oh, okay. No, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
That's how we got this started, was at family events. Me and him would be in the back of the room, kind of just bullshitting. Like, everyone that knows each other is in front of us, and me and him would just start in a random ass conversation about like chemtrails, Bigfoot, wherever the hell those conversations go. And then, by like the 5th birthday party, we're like, hey, man.
Yeah. Hey, we should record this.
Yeah. I've always wanted to do a podcast. Would you be interested in that? Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Well, that's good, man. You guys have hung on to it, man. There's so many podcasts that fall out along about the 5th or 6th episode. They're like, oh my God, it's the same fucking thing every week. We do this every week. I'm tired of it. Yeah, motherfucker, try doing it for 9.5 years. Try doing it for 470 plus episodes. Jesus. I have nothing left to say. Like, I was so eager to jump on you, because it's nice to actually be breathing into a microphone and not looking at, or, not hearing Kyle's stupid voice. It's fucking almost 500 hours. I'm so sick of it. He has nothing to say to me that I haven't heard 1,000 times.
Right. Well, then I apologize for doing half of his intro.
I love Kyle dearly, man. He's one of my closest friends in this whole world, but sometimes, man, I just soon punch him in the face than hear his voice.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. I do got a question for you, since we're on the podcast topic.
Sure.
Just because, like, we can kind of look, here's a little like inside baseball for everybody listening. Like, you can kind of go out and see like the different demographics. You can kind of see, like, for a while, we were watching like what countries were really picking up our podcast at like different times. And I was going to see what's a random country that has like just ran with your all's podcast for, like, even if it was just a little spike in the statistics. Like, what would be that country?
Uzbekistan.
Uzbekistan, nice.
Yeah, I think it's either Eastern Europe or maybe Asia, somewhere, Ukraine, somewhere else around Ukraine, little country called Uzbekistan. We did, it's been years, but I think there was one month where I want to say something like 12% of the downloads, and then like 79% of the downloads were North America.
Right.
But like 12% of our listenership for 1 month at one time was like Uzbekistan. And I didn't even know that was a place. I was like, where the fuck is this? Like some fucking Russian shithole country somewhere. And I looked it up, and it was very interesting, man. And we had a couple of listeners on the Faroe Islands, which is weird because I think the population of the Faroe Islands is like less than Lexington, Kentucky. So it was really weird that there was like a hand. It's like one person in the Faroe Islands listened to the show and told like everybody in their family. So like 7 or 8 or whatever more people. It's just really bizarre. Those demographics though, man, are you guys at the point where you still look at them? Because you'll stop because it gets depressing.
Yeah.
Because you'll look at your numbers and you'll be like, oh, here's 40,000 or whatever for this month. And then, oh shit, we dropped down to 27,000 this month. And then the next month will be a couple of lower ones in the 20s or something. And you're just freaking out. And we just learned, I mean, after we've been doing this since, fucking 9.5 years now. And we learned that you just can't look at those numbers, man. They're going to do nothing but bum you out. They're all over the place all the time.
Yeah, when we switched from doing an audio only podcast to now we've got video on YouTube, Spotify, Rumble, all that. It's like I haven't looked at the audio numbers at all. And I barely even look at the video numbers, but the video numbers are non-existent. like they don't, like we've got like 20 followers on YouTube.
That's why we stopped doing it. Yeah. That's why we stopped.
Like maybe 5 on Rumble, and we've got I don't know, 13 on Spotify or something stupid like that. We get way more listens than that number is, but it's just nobody subscribes to that shit.
People like to be able to listen to their podcast while they do other things. Like they want to, do their laundry or drive to work or jerk off or whatever. And then they don't,
Right. So I've been trying to, I want to try and keep the format of our podcast the same as it was when it was audio. We just now you can look at our ugly faces at the same time.
Yeah, there it is.
But
we will. Kyle and I both have a face for radio, so we kind of stopped doing video because no one cares. No one cares. That's the best advice I can give you is don't ever think anyone's going to care about your podcast. If you go into your podcast and do it because you enjoy doing it, man, it's going to be great and you're going to have a lot of fun. But if you base how you enjoy something off of whether or not, you peak downloads or whatever for the month, then I mean, you'll quit 1,000 times. It's just, you got to do it for you.
We've never made a single dime doing this. We've only just shelled out money. And
we got signed. Actually, we signed a deal with iHeartMedia.
Yeah,
they picked up. They called them like bubble podcasts, and they're podcasts who do a certain amount of numbers a month, and whatever that number is, whatever it was, 20, 30, 40,000, whatever. But they called them like on the bubble of really exploding. So they took maybe 50 or 100, whatever, bubble podcasts, and they offered them a deal to sign with them. They give them basically the account because we were previously on Libsyn. We used Libsyn service as our aggregator.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And I think we were paying like $25 or $30 a month for Libsyn. But their biggest package in Libsyn was like $50-something a month. Well, when we signed with iHeartMedia, they gave us an account that was like their top tier account that normally would have cost $60 or $70 a month. They gave us that for free. Plus, they gave us all these other tools that we could utilize, the full-on demographics, a video format, whatever we wanted to do. Plus, they monetized us. So we started making money. And I get a PayPal every month for whatever we did in advertising, and it's not a lot, but apparently it's just enough to keep us going. Like we're thriving on hate alone at this point. Like if we stop doing the show at this point, everyone's just gonna go, I knew it. I knew you wouldn't fucking.
I think Alex, when he brought up that where people listen to, he was going to talk about. We had for like a year, we had our most, like the majority of our downloads was it India?
It was India of all places, and we were like, what? Like, okay,
yeah, like over 50%.
Yeah, it was something stupid, and we're like, that's amazing. Like it had to be like one person found us, and then it just watched it grow.
Yeah, man,
and it's obviously dropped off since then. But man, there for
you guys should start catering to the Indian market. Like, if you guys have like a musical intro, you can change it to like a sitar or whatever, and kind of start catering to your Indian crowd, man. I would. I'm a whore. I'm a filthy whore. If it'll make me a few extra bucks, man, I'll do it.
Dude, I mean, we have like a slide guitar, like kind of bluesy intro, and they would be pretty sick on a sitar.
Hell yeah, it would. I can tell already.
No. I don't know. Speaking of Soberless thoughts, what are you? I know, Jeremy, you're not drinking tonight, but you are not sober.
No, I'm not. I'm high as giraffe's pussy right now.
There we go. And then Alex, are you drinking another NA tonight?
Yeah, I'm drinking a peanut butter
son of a bitch.
Peanut butter dark from Bravis Brewing. I know. I've got to move, and I got to do some other shit tonight.
You know, I got shit going on tonight too, but I'm still drinking. You son of a... I'm drinking Dewjack.
Newjack.
A Dewjack.
A Dewjack. What's a Dewjack?
Jack Daniels and Mountain Dew.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Dude, I gave up drinking, man. I never was a big drinker. Like when I was younger, like I really liked am I pronouncing this right? Cocaine?
Yeah.
Like I was really into drugs. Like I had times in my life when I drank a bit and would get plastered and shit. But for the most part, man, I just really enjoyed drugs. And the only drug I do now is weed, which isn't a drug at all. But yeah, I couldn't come in here sober with you guys, man. It didn't sound right. It's in the name, right?
That's right. It's in the name.
Yeah. So right. I was riding an edible I ate at about 4:00, and I just lit a pre-roll before we got started, so I should be good.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, man.
At least somebody's looking out for the fucking podcast.
That's right.
I saw that. Did you guys do a episode on helicopter deaths recently?
No idea, man. I got to be honest with you. I don't remember what we do because we've done so many at this point.
I was
I mean, it sounds familiar.
I was scrolling through your list of recent episodes,
and
I saw something about helicopter crashes. And if you remembered anything about it, if you guys talked about the Kobe Bryant's helicopter crash.
No, that's still. It seems like it may have still been fresh. We try not to, all right, I'm going to tell this story. And I hate to because I look like a piece of shit in this story. Mostly because I am. And it's rightfully so. Like, it doesn't come from nowhere. Like, I really am a bag of shit in the story. So we did an episode for Father's Day of last year. And we gave an award to the greatest father of all time, which was... Gary Plauché. Do you remember Gary Plauché?
No.
He was a guy in the 80s, man. There's video. You can still find this video online. I come across it all the time, and it always cuts before the horrible stuff happens. But Gary Plauché was a man in the 80s. He had a son who was, I don't know, whatever, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, a small child. And his son was actually kidnapped by a guy and was raped repeatedly. For a long time, I think months. And then they finally got the kid back. The kid survived. And on the day of his trial, they were walking the man with handcuffs on. There was a couple of undercover detectives who were walking him through the courthouse. And then all of a sudden, the news cameras are there, and they're filming this. This man's walking through the guy, the kidnapper or whatever, and he passes by this bank of old payphones, and all of a sudden you see a guy hang up the payphone, turn around, take out a gun, and shoot the guy point blank right in the head. And that was Gary Plachette. He was the father of the little boy that the guy had kidnapped and murdered. Which, awesome, great. I think that should probably happen to every person who kidnaps and tortures and rapes children.
Yeah.
So we gave out this award or whatever, father of the year, or father of the millennium, something silly. We just need to, we're just grasping at straws, man. We needed an idea for this episode.
Right.
So we were getting into the swing of things. We were about 30, 40 minutes into the episode. And I always Google things as we go so I can have a point of reference or whatever. So I Googled the little boy. He's grown up now. He wrote his own book. And the book was called Why Gary Why? Because that's what one of the cops started screaming after he capped the fucking, the rapist, his son's rapist. His guy starts screaming, "Why, Gary, why?" So his son grew up, wrote a book called Why, Gary, Why? And I'm looking at the pictures of the kid, and Kyle asked me to describe to the audience what the kid looked like. And I said, I told the truth, what I thought was the truth. I said, he looks like a little kid that got raped and grew up. Like in the photo I saw of him, he had a general sense of sadness in the photo. Like there wasn't just one. There were several photos where he looked like a kid or a human being, a grown-up who had suffered a terrible trauma, which is exactly what happened to him. So I made the offhand remark. I said, can you imagine what a person that got raped as a child looks like when they grow up? That's exactly what Gary Plachette's son looks like now. I can't remember his first name. Anyway, that episode got out and he listened to it. He listened to the episode and he tweeted our show, or X, or what do they call it now? X or something?
Yeah.
He tweeted. It's tweeted. He tweeted the show and said something. This is the worst part for me. Not the worst part in general, just the worst part for me was he said something very classy and very respectable, and which just made me look like an even bigger piece of shit. So for the first time, in a decade, I actually issued an apology. And I said, look, man, we've been doing this show for a very long time, and sometimes jokes land, sometimes they don't. I never meant to hurt anybody's feelings, and I felt terrible about it. And again, it's because he was so classy in what he said in his rebuttal and was so respectful. It made me feel like an even bigger piece of shit. So these days, I tend to approach the show with not with the same reckless abandon that I used to. Like every time I deliver a joke that it might be a little on edge, I think, well, is it likely that this person's going to listen to the show and be very upset about it? And I know that's not the way, like any comedian or any podcaster or whatever the case may be will tell you, you can't live like that. You can't think along those terms, or you're just going to govern yourself. You're going to stifle yourself inadvertently. And unfortunately, man, when you make a joke about some poor child who, it wasn't even really a joke about the child, but when you make a joke like that and then it comes back to bite you, you don't really, it takes a special kind of asshole to keep on with that same behavior and not, sort of start governing themselves. So ever since that happened, man, I've tried to take it a little bit easier.
I feel like, but how much of your guys' show is scripted?
None of it.
Yeah. So like, I don't know.
It's all off the top. Well, we're both comedians who do a lot of crowd work. So right. Especially Kyle.
So
Kyle's the kind of comedian who'll go on stage and do one joke and then do 55 minutes of crowd work.
Yes, he will. I remember that about him.
Yeah, I'm not that. I go up and do. Oh, excuse me, man. Like I said in the beginning of the show, I'm sorry, I'm fighting some allergies here, but I'll go on stage and do 20 minutes, and then maybe 5 or 10 of it will be a little bit of crowd work or whatever. Kyle, he'll go on to do an hour. I've seen him do it and not do one joke. He'll go up and do crowd work for an hour and a half, and people just thought they saw the most amazing, set they've ever seen in their life. And he's an asshole for that. I hate him because he's so fucking good at that.
What's funny? I have such a distinct memory of one time that me and you this was like early on, like, you know, like earlier when we're all like still kind of going around the rotations of Lexington.
Yeah.
And I don't remember where the show was, but I remember me and you were standing off stage and Kyle was up and he was like 5-10 minutes in of just crowd work. And you turned to me and it was like, this fucking asshole's going to do crowd work the whole fucking time.
Yeah.
And,
Well,
and I just looked, I was
when
like,
he does that,
shit,
man.
He's right.
Yeah, well, and when he does that,
so
he
funny.
takes away from all the other comics. Now, when he does it as a headliner, that's fine. He's the last one up. But if he goes up and gets people involved and gets them talking back and doing the thing that, you know, doing the crowd work shit, the next comedian comes up, the poor fucking schmuck, and he's up there trying to do his jokes, and people are like, balls, you know, or whatever, and they're yelling shit at the stage, and it just fucks things up, and it annoys me, and Kyle doesn't give a shit. He don't care. He does it on purpose. He don't give a shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was funny. It just, you called it. It was like, I don't even think he was on that long. You're like, he's going to do it. Watch him. He's going to fucking do it. And I was like, okay.
He's
then,
very good, man.
Dude, he is. I got to give him props. He was like definitely around our class of comedians in Lexington. He was definitely like one of the top tier like crowd workers for sure.
I learned a lot from him, man. Not just with stand up, because he actually brought me up on stage at the very first open mic I ever did. He emceed me that night, and that's how we met. And he gave me a lot of pointers and stuff. I learned a lot. He taught me a lot about leading the crowd when you're doing crowd work, to get them to ask you what you need them to ask you, or get them to say what you need them to say. He taught me a lot about that. He's been a radio broadcaster for, coming up on 20 years at this point. You know, he taught me a lot about podcasts. You know, you can listen to the progression of the show as well. Like if you go back and listen to the early episodes, it's me saying a lot of things with like, or these little fillers and things like that. And while I'm not anywhere near, where I need to be with the podcast, that I've progressed over the years, and you can sort of see that. And that all comes from Kyle. I mean, he's, I hate that he's better than me at something. It pisses me off, but he's been doing comedy and broadcasting much, much longer. Probably 3 times as long on both accounts.
I mean, if it makes you feel any better, our first episodes, granted, us being a drinking podcast, I swear, I tell people, don't listen to the first fucking 20. Go find just a topic that sparks your interest, because the first 20, we're way too shit-faced. We're saying fuck and shit every other word.
Too much.
Those are our filler words.
Yeah, the filler words was like fucking this, fucking that, fucking. And you're like, damn, there is nothing we are not saying that. And I hate it.
It's hard to break, man. And I never noticed it until I went back and listened to the episodes after Kyle had told me, you're using too many fillers, this and that and the other. He would edit and the audio would sound choppy because he cut out me going, or like, shit like that. And the audio sounded really funny. So I had to make a decision, like knock that shit off, or just sound really bizarre and almost non-human on the show. Like it sounds like a smash cut YouTube video, like a Vine. Remember like the Vine videos, they had 6 seconds. Everything was smash cut. Well, imagine listening to a podcast that's like an hour long, that's just filled with smash cuts of my audio where he took out likes and uhs, and it's just a pain in the ass. So you got to learn to sort of deal with it, and get better at it. And it's just time and practice.
Right.
Yep. I remember showing Alex the screen of me editing the podcast, editing out all of the uhs and likes and everything else.
Yeah.
And like all the edits all the way through the whole damn thing. And I'm like, dude, this is why it takes me so long to edit this.
Yeah. I edited our show for the first 3 or 4 years, maybe even 5 years. And then Kyle took over. Now, my version of editing was take his audio track and take my audio track, line them up, listen to the whole thing to make sure there was nothing weird, and then export it. Kyle goes through and cuts this and that. If there's a joke that doesn't work, something falls flat or whatever the case may be, he'll cut that out. And that's probably why we've slowed down to 1 episode a month now, because we haven't. I don't think we've had a weekly episode with any sort of consistency in probably 3 or 4 months. So, and again, it's just, it's busy, it's life, it's, having all this shit to do. Plus it's, the fact that he edits video and audio all week for other people, and then he's got to sit down and do our show. So that's enough to wear on anybody. So we've sort of slowed at this point, and then I guess if we find a rhythm again, maybe, there's nothing that'll stop us from jumping back up to weekly, but as of right now, it's going to be monthly, I believe.
When you were talking about how you kind of self-censor yourself now,
yeah,
when you're spitting out jokes, I don't know how you do that. Like we will go on tangents, what we call back alley. We'll just go back alley with shit and start talking, and it'll just be one thing after another, and then 3 days later after we record it, Alex will send me a text like, "Hey man, that joke that we did about whatever the hell it was, that was horrendous and like super inappropriate. We should probably cut that one out of the episode."
Yeah. No, we catch it as we go, usually. I mean, every once in a while there will be something that I think was on the line, it was on the border, and I'll go ahead and just let it go. But Kyle will tell me, "Hey man, that joke you did was funny, great, whatever, blah blah blah," but there's no way. And usually, he, like I said, he does so much editing to the show to where if I say something, and it's usually the F word, and it's not fuck, the other F word, and I say it with no other connotation. I say it with the 80s, connotation, but that always gets bleeped or it always gets cut out. And I do it for shock value because it's one of those words to where when you say that word, people fucking, like, you can see them physically wince when you say that word. People hate that word. I love that word. And moreover, I love the reaction that word gets because people get really up in arms. And it's that word, at least to me, has never had anything to do with how a person has sex.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you know what word I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But Kyle, and we always cut it. Like we always say, no, we're going to leave it for a little shock value here or there. Yeah. But it either gets bleeped or it gets cut. Typically, we catch it in the moment. Like I'll say, we'll be going on a rant and going on, and the podcast is rolling and moving, and I'll inevitably say something stupid, something mean, or something just over the line. And after our laugh, I'll be like, all right, you're going to have to cut that. And that reminds him when he goes back to listen to it to go ahead and cut that joke. And then typically the only thing that gets cut is what we say needs to be cut. And then every once in a while he'll find something on his own that, like, maybe it's, a joke that was inappropriate, or maybe it's a joke that doesn't land or whatever, just isn't funny. So for listenability, they'll splice it right out.
Yeah. If you want to listen to like the last 30 minutes of the podcast that we did with Rebecca Sanders, that's all you'll hear is talk about retarded faggots. So
yeah, I love that word so much. I love, people will wince like you just flicked water in their fucking face when you say that word. I love it so much. That word makes me so, and never one time has it ever had anything to do with being gay. No. It has to do with being a fucking faggot is what it has to do with. And nothing. I love Rebecca. I wish I could have been on. We could have doubled up on the guests. I haven't spoken to Rebecca in years, man. There was a time where she and I would be like on the same show, on the same stand-up show, probably got 2 or 3 nights a week for like weeks and weeks in a row. And I don't think I've even spoken to her in 3 or 4 years, at least. I think when I first moved back to Lawrenceburg from Louisville, I booked a show in Frankfurt, and I booked her on it, and she wound up canceling on me. I think that's been 3 years. That's probably the last time I spoke to her. I had a big crush on her.
I'll tell you what, next time we get it, we'll arrange it. We'll arrange a little meeting.
Let's do it, man. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
We just got to get Alex's schedule squared away.
Yeah.
Right. I'm all over the place. Hey, side note, aliens. She will talk about some aliens. We were having a good old time.
Like the Jim Cameron movie or like real aliens?
Real aliens.
No. Just real aliens. We talk some crazy, wild, like random shit like that sometimes.
Yeah.
When he was talking about the back alley stuff, like that's one thing about our episodes. Like we'll start like, I don't know, we'll start talking about like, I don't know, like Harriet Tubman or something. And the next thing you know, like we'll be in like the most like in-depth conversation about like if aliens came back like from like they're from the future, like do you think they could bring Bigfoots with them? And do you think they like, you know, do they have Bigfoots or are they Bigfoots? You know, just random shit like that. Like it's never consistent. Then we got to go back to the original topic. Like, oh yeah, by the way, let's pause the alien Bigfoot thing. Let's go back to her where she was like a important historical figure.
But yeah, man, I told a story on our podcast about the time I got abducted by an alien when I was a kid.
Wait a minute, you got abducted by an alien?
Oh,
yeah, man. Yeah.
Do go on.
Well, you
can listen to that story wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, about 45 other different streaming platforms.
You
want me to? Alex, I'm not going to tell the story. No,
Alex,
okay.
Alex has like a historical, like it runs in his family that they all get abducted by the same aliens, I think.
Kind of.
The same ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the same ones, man.
You've been marked.
I swear to God.
It's the exact same UFO.
Probably. There's a book called Weird Kentucky. All right. And there was a story about 3 women that were abducted off of a road in Stanford, which is like right around my hometown of like Danville.
Sure.
And one of the women is like my great aunt, essentially. And they had like some kind of like 3-hour time slip where they don't remember it. They all just kind of woke up. And then I've told the story on here of like when he and a group full of guys were driving through the backwoods of Stanford, essentially, and come up on what we think is a UFO, and the car shuts down in the middle of nowhere, and now we're stranded. And then, you know, like definitely some time passed. We don't know how much, but it was like a buddy of ours who was supposed to meet up with us to go partying was like, dude, you all been gone for like hours. We're like, no, we haven't. Like, we just drove to Stanford and back like that. There's no way. And then, long story short, the car was taken into the mechanic, and the mechanic said verbatim, it's like someone magnetized the entire car and nothing in this thing that's electrical works.
Huh.
So it was a little wild experience.
Man, that's pretty wild. Yeah. Back in the day, man, I used to take my art a bit more seriously. My illustrations and stuff. I was an illustrator, and I used to get booth space at these cons and things like that, horror movie conventions, comic book conventions, and I would just sell prints of my artwork. I did a convention in 2009 or 2008, and sitting beside me in the booth next to me all weekend for 3 days straight was Travis Walton. You know who Travis Walton is?
No.
Travis Walton was the guy they made the movie. There's a movie that came out in 1993 called A Fire in the Sky. And that movie was about the alien abduction of Travis Walton.
Yeah, I've seen that movie.
Yeah, it's based on a true story. So I sat next to Travis Walton all weekend, the guy who the movie was made after. And I'm going to let you guys peek behind the curtain here. I got to talking to him, and I thought it would be hilarious if I made up my own alien abduction story and talked to him about it. You know, between him doing signings and stuff. Because let's be honest, like, he wasn't a big movie star or anything. So there were times when he had lulls and visits to his booth, and we were chatting, and I freestyled, I guess, for lack of a better word, the story about me being abducted when I was a kid, 7 years old. And I thought it would be funny to tell that story on the podcast. It's 100% not true. It could be further from the truth. I've never been abducted by aliens one time in my life. I've never seen an alien, you know. So I tell the story and he ha ha ha. We have our little jokes about it. Well, the next thing you know, people are messaging me directly. They're tweeting me on Twitter. They're sending me message requests on Facebook, you know, trying to add me as a friend and shit. And I had to turn that off because people, I don't know what it is about me, but something about my personality says, hey, it's okay to address me in person if you listen to the show. I don't know what it is, but something about my personality. And you would think because I'm kind of an asshole, people would avoid me, but they want to add me and talk to me. So people were trying to tell me these stories about their alien abductions. They were having these connections with me. And again, it's another way that this show made me feel like a piece of shit. But I didn't have the heart to go, I made all that up. None of that is true.
Yeah.
Right.
And honestly, I didn't even remember the whole story that I told Travis Walton because he's sitting there the whole time. And I thought what would made it funny to me is if like he bought it hook, line, and sinker. And honestly, I don't think he bought it all the way. I think he was just kind of like, I wish this fucking fat guy would quit telling me about aliens and leave me the fuck alone so I can eat this Arby's roast beef sandwich that my handler brought to me. It's been sitting here cold because I've been signing autographs. But he was very nice, and he made eye contact and nodded like he was, listening to what I said. And I just wind up feeling like a jerk because these people are trying to tell me, my grandmama got abducted by aliens when I was a little kid. I woke up in the middle of the night. She'd been taken up and they're just telling me all this shit. And I'm like, I wish that I changed my name. Like I thought about changing my name so listeners can't find me on social media. Because like I said, they don't do it to Kyle. They don't fucking bother him.
Started a whole new podcast just having people call in with their alien abductions.
Right. I'm supposed to be the one that's abrasive and loud and big and obnoxious. He's the little Peasley, again, little weirdo dude, and no one ever bothers him. They all bother me. They all want to, ask me questions and talk to me about stuff. And I'm like, I don't fucking know what I said. I'll get messages where they're like, hey, remember episode 326 where you said, no, I don't remember saying anything. They'll be like, well, you also said this. Is that true? And I was like, I don't know. Probably it isn't. I don't remember what 475 fucking hours. I don't remember what I've said. I can't remember what I said on the last episode, much less on episode, 172. I don't know. I mean, do you believe it? Then believe it if you want to believe it. It's whatever you want it to be.
Dude, I totally get reminded of what we've said every week when we listen to the podcast. Like, I'm like, oh shit, I forgot. Or like if there's any kind of lull, like if we like switch up the order and like I come back to it later and listen to it, I'm like, oh, I do not remember like I don't even believe this is me talking on the other end of this because I don't remember this at all.
Yeah, well they'll tell me, they'll be like, you said this, and I'm like, I did? Or they'll say something, I'll be like, wow, that sounds like an asshole. Was that me? Really? They don't understand that you've got a lot of time to fill. And when you're doing these episodes, man, you got to be on. And you do, Alex, you do stand up. You've done stand up for years. You know how it is, who you are, not even just on stage, but who you are at a comedy show. Just being there at a comedy show is way different than who you are at home.
Oh, for
and
sure.
people want to talk to that version of you. So they get this version of me that's a bit curmudgeonly, but outspoken and funny on the show. They message me and on Facebook, and they're telling me these stories, and I just reply with, okay, cool. That's not me. If I were who I am on the podcast all the time, I would be fucking exhausted. Like I would fall asleep constantly from exhaustion from having to project my voice and be on and try to be clever and funny and witty and some would probably say I fail more often than I succeed at that. But I don't want to be that person all the time. And I think people forget, especially with comedy, because once I climb down off that stage, like I'm just back to being an asshole who doesn't really want to look at or talk to anyone,
That's my thing. I try to explain to my wife, like, I don't mean those things that I say. Most of those stories I'm telling aren't true.
Yeah.
It's not reality. I'm just saying it because it's funny, and it is a funny story that 90% of I just made up as I was telling it.
Yeah, there's always like a little modicum of truth to something, but you take the story that was, I mean, at best mildly amusing, you turn it up to 10, add a few facts here, paint it here, here or there, and the next thing you know, you got a very funny story. And that's ostensibly what comedy is. It's taking mundane, dumb bullshit, looking at it through a bizarre lens and turning it up to 12. You know what I mean?
Right.
And we do that. And then so when people ask me, they're like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened to you. I'm like, I don't know what you're fucking talking about. What's some bullshit I said on a show? Like, it is what it is. But
but everything that Alex says is 100% accurate, and he never lies on the show ever.
Well, that's because he's drinking non-alcoholic beer. So,
that's true.
Yeah, right. No, that's... I tend to bullshit here and there, but no, I would say my co-host over there, he is the king of making up fucking fake statistics and shit like that, where it's even got me a couple of times where he will like say something, I just go, I guess that's a fucking fact, let's just keep that going. And then he'll even look at me like wait for me to like acknowledge it, and I'm still like I don't know if that's real or not, man.
Here's the thing, like, Alex, that train is going to derail, buddy. That train is going to hit a brick fucking wall. You wait until someone that matters holds him accountable for something he said on the show. That will change. Yeah. That will change. He'll start fact checking I did. I told a guy that he looked like a kid got raped and grew up. That's a horrible fucking thing to say to somebody who actually had that happen. So once, and again, dude, it's one of those things that probably should have been cut out. No, it definitely should have been cut out. And it didn't. And I felt horrible for it. And as soon as somebody starts calling his ass on his bullshit, for lack of a better word, he's not going to do it. Once you start feeling bad, once you feel bad about a crime, something you said about an individual in a crime that has been studied and analyzed by thousands of professionals all over the world, once you make a statement on record that's terrible and someone calls you on it, I promise you will straighten right up.
I don't know. We'll see if it happens.
But right now, just go for it, dude. Whatever.
Right now, we will see if it
say
happens.
Whatever. It don't matter.
I'm at the point in my life though where I feel like as long as my wife doesn't divorce me, like it's. And
is she like the best you can? Is she the best thing you got?
No, yeah, she's her and my kids. That's everything.
That's sweet. I like that. Oh, you have children? Okay.
Yeah. So as long as I can maintain a happy family, I don't give a fuck what anybody, and I won't say anything that's going to fuck my family up. So as far as everybody else in the world is concerned,
well, at some point, one of your kids is going to go, "Dad, what's an old man gangbang?" or some bullshit you said on the show. And then that might get you in check. Who knows?
I'll explain it to him, and he'll
Dad, what's lemon party?
Yeah. He'll figure it out.
Well, that's great, man. Like having a wife. I never did that, and I it's tough. I never had children, and the worst part of it is, man, the only thing I can do now is just whatever the fuck I want to do, whenever the fuck I want to do it.
Right. Yeah.
I hate that. It's awful. It's just awful not having any responsibility to being responsible for another life. It's awful. I envy you guys.
I love being responsible for all my children all running around here.
You know what no one ever says? You know what everyone always says? I love my kids, man. Having children just changed me. No one ever goes, well, what's having kids like? It fucking sucks. They're terrible. They're these ungrateful little fucking shitheads that live with you, and they just take and step on your fucking dreams, and they never give back, and they're self-centered and all. No one ever says that. They always go, having a kid will change you, man. I'm like, I'm good. I'm fine.
I feel like they say it, but they say it in very very small, quick clips. You see little glimpses of that,
Yeah.
especially with like a stressed out parent. Yeah. Like they're not just like setting everything down. Like, all right, everyone gather around. I gotta say something. It's always these little like motherfucker. Like you just see.
You have to ask them. Like, they're not going to volunteer that info.
Yeah. I see parents do this, stressed out kids not listening, running away, and I just see like a motherfucker under his breath, or he's just like, that asshole's running away, and then you see them run after him, but it's just that it just says it all in that little statement, and then it's just that little weakness. Then he goes back to like, I love you, I'm coming to get you.
Yeah,
but
it's the fight or flight response, but for a split second, it's flight, and then they're like, "Nah, I'll stick around."
Yeah.
No, I mean, that's great. It's great.
That's where my wife saves me, though. That's where she saves me, is because like at the ball field just the other day, my son's acting like he's fucking retarded, and I'm like, "Look, you need to act right, or I'm just going to leave you here." And he's like, "Well," and goes off, and I'm like, "Okay," and I just walked off.
Yeah.
And then she finally stopped me and was like, "You're not really just going to leave him?" And I was like, "Okay, I'll go get him."
They get really upset when you hang your kids up by their ankles in the closet and feed them crushed up potato chips underneath the door. And until we become a society that is okay with that, I'm probably not going to have any children.
Yeah.
Wonderful idea.
I'm sick of these Puritans that just look down their nose at me for hitting my kids in public. Those fuckers. I have nieces and nephews, man, and they're great, man. They give you a taste of what it's like to have children, but the best part is, right when I reach my boiling point to where I'm about to punch, like I said, my nephew he's 14 years old. So he's never said anything incorrect in his entire fucking life. Like, he's a know-it-all. And remembers the day he was fucking born, this kid. And about 3 hours with him is about where I reach the point to where I'm about to punch him right in the mouth as hard as I can. And then about that time, boop, 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 there's a knock at the door and my sister comes to pick him up. And I'm like, this is great. This is great. This is just like having kids, except when you get sick of them, you just open the fucking door and shove them onto the Davenport there. Let's get rid of them. That's
how every grandparent feels. Exactly what you just
there's something
described.
to that for sure. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. They also get the sweet revenge of seeing like all that shit that you did to them. They're just like, they're like, they enjoy they're like, like my parents love it when I'm like running after or like just losing my cool, and I could just see my dad like nodding and smiling like, how's it fucking feel, huh? I've been waiting 40 fucking years to see this shit.
Yeah, I did it, man. I played dad a couple of times in my life. Like I think the closest I ever been was I dated a girl back when I was in my 20s, and she had a little girl who was about a year old when I met her and we started dating, and it was wild, man. I raised a little girl for like 2 years, and it was just, you remember the Louis C.K. bit where he said, "I never knew that my relationship to the vagina was going to be cleaning poop out of a little tiny one for a few years." That is what that's like, and I had to do that. That might have been the moment when Louis became one of my favorite comics, man, was when I heard that bit, because no one ever tells you that. She taught me how the mechanics of a diaper and how they work. They didn't tell me that girls just shit. They shit right in their vaginas, the poor little things. Yeah. And you gotta, it's awful. It's awful. And it took me years to be able to get to a place where I could talk about it. Like, I was scarred. From cleaning poop out of a tiny little vagina. And she was the best kid. Like, she had to be, because I was such a shitty parent. And while we're on the subject, her mom was a shitty fucking parent too. Like, this kid is now 19, and she's moved across the country away from her crazy ass fucking cunt mother, which is the smartest thing she could ever did, because this woman's horrible. I despise her. We broke up. We broke up 18 years ago, 17 years ago, and this woman still lives in my head rent-free, because there's sometimes when I'm just like, you know what, I hope she gets hit by a car today. I hate her. I hope someone stabs her. Doesn't kill her, but I hope someone greatly inconveniences her today and sends her to the emergency room. I hate her. So the little girl grew up, and she's like a valedictorian at her high school, and she graduated, and then she moved to California, across literally the other side of the country. She's got a great job now. She's in college, and she's just really well adjusted. And she was an amazing kid, and she had to be, because I was such a shitty parent, and I got to sit there and clean poop out of the poor little thing's vagina. And she's just looking at me like, look, I don't care for this either. So, I mean, we're both in the same space. We both hate what's happening right now. But I can remember I was horrible. Like, I'd get way too drunk or high the night before. I'd be sleeping in, and I'd get up and with her, and I'd put on a movie and make her a bowl of cereal, and then I would go back to sleep for like 2 hours. And there's a fucking toddler, just complete run of the house, can do whatever the hell she wants, and she was such a good kid that she would just sit there and eat her cereal and watch her movie. And then whenever she was done, when the credits would roll, she'd walk over to me and poke this big fat useless hungover dude sleeping on her couch, and be like, can you change the movie for me? And I'd go change the movie, and she would just sit and watch another movie, and I'd pass out for another 2 hours. I was such a terrible parent, and somehow this beautiful, wonderful, amazing little soul grew up to be such a well-adjusted. So it kind of shines some new light on that whole, nature versus nurture argument that everyone's apparently been having for hundreds of years.
So I thought you were going to end that story with, and now we're dating.
No,
as great fuck you to her.
Look, man, I'm not above making that joke if someone else is in that situation, but you don't make that joke at me. It makes me sick to my stomach. The idea is just horrible. I don't, like, you think about, like, what is it, like Woody Allen and like all these terrible Jimmy Page and Elvis, all these horrible people who groomed these fucking children to grow up and be in a relationship. It's despicable. And the idea, no, we're not. No, she's a very good kid. I message her every once in a while. Like, she's on my Instagram, and I'll send her a message. But it's really weird because she's 19 now, and she's a beautiful girl inside and out. She's physically a beautiful girl, and she's just a beautiful soul. But she lives in California, and she's a teenager. So, there's always pictures of her in her bikini, and I'll open up, Instagram, and I'm like, I like drop my fucking phone. So that's about the closest to dad behavior I've ever had, was being utterly repulsed by, this little girl that I kind of helped raise, her bikini pictures on Instagram.
Yep. I have 3 children, 2 older boys, and then my baby girl is only 2. And I'm not looking forward to that. Like, that's something that I'm going to.
Oh, it's gross. It makes you feel gross. Yeah.
I'm just going to murder people.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm going to be like your Doug Planche or whatever his name was.
Yeah, that's close enough.
Yeah, just everybody that.
Yeah.
Everybody that's everybody who friend requests her, all of it. Just.
Oh, yeah. Yes. I'll fucking stalk them, hunt them, and kill them.
That's right. I can't wait. Can't wait. Jeremy, so this is something that we ask everybody that's on the podcast.
Sure.
What is the craziest thing that's ever happened to you while high on the party sauce?
Well, all right. So while drunk.
Yeah. Or high.
There's probably the first 2. I don't know if they're the craziest, man. I would, if I sat down and thought about it, because there was a lot of times when I was younger, where I did party a lot. But the first 2 that spring to mind, and I'll tell them both very quickly. The first one is when I was 16 years old. I was at a party on a Saturday night, high school party, and there was a girl there with her boyfriend. She was from like 2 towns over, and all they did was make out all fucking night. They sit in the corner and they made out, and at one point, like, he had his hand down her pants and she had her hand down his pants. They were basically jerking each other off right there for the whole party to see. Well, I got a bunch of drunk dudes around. Next thing you know, people are daring her to do stuff. Oh, hey, yeah. I dare you to fucking blow him right here in front of everybody. She takes out his dick, she starts blowing him. One thing leads to another, and at this point, we're passing a hat around the room to try to come up with $50. So for $50, she told everybody at the party, at this house party, there's like maybe 30 or 40 people there. She's like, $50, you know, I'll let him fuck me in the ass and everybody can watch. This is a 16-year-old girl. Jesus. And at the time, I can't think of anything I wanted to see more than a girl being fucked in the ass. So I was super into it. And I will actually make sure that I stress the fact that I was 16 as well.
Yeah.
She wasn't 16 and I was 30. Like, I was 16 too. And before you know it, man, the hat goes around for a few minutes. Next thing you know, there's like $50-$60 in it. And it's time for her to pay the piper. So sure enough, and we're in this guy's living room. Like, his parents are out of town. We're in his living room, and they got like a big sectional sofa, and everybody's like got their front row seats. Everybody's sitting. Like, this sofa is probably made to sit 6 people, and there's at least 30 people on this fucking sofa, and they're right in the middle of the floor. She's bent over an ottoman with her pants down around her ankles, and he is railing her up the ass. And it was just really neat. It was a really neato thing to watch in person. Because at 16 years old, I was still a virgin. Yeah. And I was like, this looks like, I can't wait for this to happen. I can't wait to be the dude. I don't want to understand. I'm not, like, I wanted to be the guy.
Yeah.
So that was really exciting. There was another time when I discovered the most delicious drink I've ever had in my entire life. And it was they were called tequila sunrises.
Oh yeah.
It's tequila, orange juice, and red Crittenden or Kittenden. I think it's called red Crittenden. Grenadine, yeah, excuse me. So I discovered these tequila sunrises at a party one night, and long about my 18th or 20th one, I was at least the drunkest thing on earth for that time period. Like, for that hour, I had to be the drunkest human on earth. So at one point, we run out of tequila and we run out of orange juice. So I'm like, you know what? I didn't drive because I was very young. I was a teenager. But my buddy who had driven me to the party, he was there. He had his car. And we were blocked in. His car was blocked in, I remember. And I couldn't get anybody blocking him in to fucking move their car, or better yet, to drive me to the store so I could go in. Because I had a little hookup at the local liquor store. If I went through the drive-thru, the guy would sell to me. He would never card me. And I didn't tell anybody that because I didn't want it to, the police to find out about it. So I just learned that if me and my buddies went through a drive-thru, or if one of them would lend me their car and I could drive through the drive-thru, the guy wouldn't bother carding you. He would just sell to you. So I'm like, great. Now all I got to do is get these cars out of the way. And I'm so drunk. I'm like, you know what, man? I've seen people be able to lift cars or whatever. I was like, you know what? I'm going to try to go out there, and maybe me and one of my friends can pick the car up and move it to the side. We can get it out of the way. My buddy can take his car. We can go and keep this fucking party going. Yeah. Yeah. So I go out there and no one else comes. Like, 3 people told me they were going to come help me. No one comes out to help me. So instead of going out to get somebody to help me, I decided to try to move the car myself. That's the last thing I remember. Now, the next morning, I wake up in the guy's front yard and I am cuddling a bumper off my friend's car. Like, I've got my arms around it and I'm cuddling it long ways like a body pillow. Like, I got my legs around it, and I I passed out in his front yard. Apparently, when I tried to move the car, I just wound up pulling his whole plastic bumper off. And when I did, I guess I fell and knocked myself out and laid in the front yard and slept, cuddling a bumper all night.
Damn.
Yeah. Go big or go home.
That's right. That bumper didn't know what hit it.
That's right.
Fuck yeah. Alex, do you have any more questions for Jeremy? You're sitting over there. I don't even see. What are you doing?
Oh, dude, I talk, man. I will talk and talk and talk. It's
No. My audio. The entire time my Zoom has been in and out, so I've been getting like weird bits of that whole conversation. Like the one before it was like I heard like the hat $50, then bang some chick in the ass, and then it was like, and then
those were the key parts. That's all you need. Yeah, you're good.
Yeah,
you got the story. Yeah, you got it.
I guess it happened. All right, okay. But nothing I can think of off the top of my head.
Everything that I had for you, Jeremy, is all confrontational, and I like you too much now to even say any of it.
Confrontational?
Yeah.
Regarding what?
I just want to fight. Because people want to be your friend, Jeremy, because you're such a big guy, and they want you on their side.
Is that what it is?
That's what it is. That's why people want to be your friend, because they would rather have you on their side than as their enemy. Yeah. And it comes down to, middle-aged battle royals. And
yeah, they happen so often.
Right.
Yeah.
And if just in case that does happen, you're like, well, I got Jeremy Sutherland on my side.
I think you might have cracked it, man. I think you might be onto something.
That's it. That's why.
They're going to be devastated when they learn that I am now 42. I'm going to be 43 in 2 months. I've got maybe 12 to 15 seconds of fist fighting left in me. That's it. That's it. After that, man, I'm done. I'm a punching bag.
Yeah. That's how I feel. I'm 41. I feel like I can throw maybe 3 good punches.
Yeah.
And that's if I make contact.
Yeah, and you'll be breathing hard afterwards.
If I whiff on the first one,
oh, you're done, right?
I'm done.
You're going right to the ground.
You're like breathing hard right now.
Yeah, once I go down, dude, I'm not getting back up.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try and roll over your ankle and break it as I'm on the ground. That's my fighting strategy.
Yeah.
So where can they find Obtuse Angles, the podcast?
Man, wherever you get podcasts. Our 2 big platforms are Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
Apple
Podcasts. Obtuse Angles Podcast with Kyle and Jeremy.
That's it. And we're big fans.
You got 470 plus back episodes. So you got years of listening.
There's been times since we've started our podcast where we'll put out an episode, and then like a week or 2 later, I'll call up Alex and be like, Jeremy and them have on the Obtuse Angles podcast just did an episode talking about the same shit that we were just talking about.
Oh, that's funny.
And
here's the thing, man. I'm gonna tell you this. I'm gonna let you in on this. It's all in earnest because I don't listen to a single podcast.
Yeah, well, I didn't think that you guys were listening to our shit.
No, like I literally do not listen to any podcasts at all. So, I mean, maybe Kyle is listening to your show, stealing your ideas. I can't speak for him. I mean, let's be honest. If one of us was going to do it, Kyle's kind of fucking sneaky. It would probably be Kyle. But if we ever do it, man, it is parallel thinking, at least on my part, because I don't listen to podcasts. I always worry. Like the same reason I don't watch stand up, There's like 4 or 5 comedians that I'll watch, and that's it. And it's because I'm scared to death of parallel thinking. And I got accused of it, when accused of parallel thinking, I got accused of stealing material one night by a comedian that I really liked, and I thought he was a friend. And instead of saying, "Hey," yeah, you were there. That was almost the fist fight. Almost got into a fight that night. And had he not been completely wasted drunk, I probably would have. Yeah, I would have left him where I found him. But he was wasted, and I just took it as he didn't know what he was saying.
Right. I think I even tried to chirp up for you. It was like, hey man, I was like, I've heard him do these bit, like, because you had been like, you kind of paused your stand-up game for like a year and came back, and he left and came back, and then like you're doing, like, you were like, I could see you were trying some new stuff, but you were polishing off like the, dusting off the old ones just to kind of get back in the groove. And those are the ones he was talking about. I'm like, dude, he did those jokes. Like,
I've been doing those jokes for years. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, dude, I could recite them at this point. Shit, man. Like,
we have shared the stage a lot, haven't we?
Yeah. I mean, like, you're with the same people and you hear the same jokes. I have favorite jokes of each person just about.
Sure. Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's just like, and sometimes when people ask me to tell them a joke, I will go, all right, but I'm gonna tell you a different comedian's joke because I like this joke. And I would say, like, this is a one-liner from blah 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 blah. He's a guy from Lexington, and then I tell them the joke, and they look at me like, "Why did you do that?" I'm like, "Because I hate having to be put on the spot to try to make you laugh. So I'm just gonna waste someone else's material on this bullshit interaction."
That's one way to do it, man. Yeah, no, and things were never really the same between us because I at one point I kind of considered that guy a friend, and then when he accused me of that, and then when he sobered up, there was never like a hey, sorry, man, I was drunk. Like I guess he was either embarrassed by it or he really felt what he was saying was true, which just annoys me. Like it really made me angry, and it almost got ugly that night, but. For one of the rare times where I actually walk away instead of doing the stupid thing, I did the smart thing that night.
Good for you.
Thank you, man. Yeah, it's a stupid decision, but I did it. I don't have a history of making the right decision, especially when it comes to matters of impulse. I'm just, at least when I was younger. I'm not now, dude. Like I'm such a pussy now. I'll avoid confrontation a lot. No, that's not true. I'm still an asshole. I'll avoid a fist fight whenever I can because I'm too old and fat and out of shape now. But when I was young, man, I had a real chip on my shoulder and I would swing first and ask questions later. And I'm just a big pussy now. I can't do that shit anymore.
Oh, hey, do you still have your skeleton out in front of your house?
That was from years ago when I lived with my ex-girlfriend in Louisville. She still has it up. She left it up after I moved out. She has not taken it down.
Nice.
It is still there, and apparently she told me sometime after I left that the neighbors, that neighbor that was the guy, that was asking me about it.
Yeah.
Perfectly reasonably, might I add. Like the woman was being very nice and perfectly reasonable in asking me to take Halloween decorations down in May or whatever it was. And apparently that lady moved. Like she sold the house and moved. I don't think it was strictly because of that skeleton, but I'm pretty sure it didn't help anything. It didn't help matters.
No, there's a guy who lives right down the street from my son's parents. And they have one of those 30-foot tall skeleton monstrosities out in the front of their house. They never take it down. It always has a different, whatever the season is, it's got.
That's what I did. I just decorated it for whatever holiday was coming up.
Yeah, like right now I think it has a Hawaiian shirt on or something.
I like it. Yeah, I like it.
But every time I see it, it makes me think of you telling that story on your podcast.
It's so funny. See, I remember that story. You can quote that story to me and I remember it. Do you know why I remember that story? Because it's true. It actually happened. Now, everything I ever tell on the podcast, for the most part, happened. But like I said, it's maybe a slight modicum of truth that gets exaggerated. What I told that story was actually how every single thing happened. So that's why, that's why you're good to call me on that one. It actually did take place just like I told it.
I love it. I remember just cracking up thinking about that. Like,
Thank you.
This guy.
Yeah. What an asshole.
I want to be friends with him, so he's on my side.
Well, you wanted to be confrontational with me, man. What was that about?
I just like to fight. I like to fight people.
You want to argue?
Yeah, I got
that feeling about you, man. And it's so funny because this podcast we just did here, this episode, has turned me around on you. There was one point where I thought you were kind of fucking annoying.
Yeah.
Like anytime and I mean that in the worst way imaginable too. I don't mean that to be nice at all.
I appreciate that.
Okay. No, but there was a time when anytime I would post something on Facebook, you would pop up just as devil's advocate just to contradict something I said. And I would grab my phone and I would see that I had a Facebook notification with your fucking name on it. And I'm like, this fucking asshole again. Fuck this guy. So I think at one point I even I removed you or blocked you or something. I did something.
Yeah, you unfriended me on Facebook.
Yeah, I unfriended you. Yeah, that's because that's the kind of person I am. Don't challenge me in my life.
Right.
No, I don't want to be challenged. I want my life to be easy. Leave me the fuck alone.
Well, I did. So I went through a phase about 3 or 4 years ago where I would love to just get online and talk shit and just whatever somebody was saying, I'd be like, no, the opposite of that. And I would just roll with it. And
that's my friend Kenley.
Off. And it was just entertainment to me. And now I'm like, I don't have the time or energy for any of that shit anymore.
Well, good for you, man, because that shit was really annoying. No offense. Well, I mean, whatever. I mean, offense. I mean offense by that.
I didn't even realize he was doing it that bad. That's funny.
Oh, this son of a bitch. Every time I would post something, man, well, actually, like, fuck you. Who are you?
No, because I know. Yeah.
But this episode has turned me around, though, man. You've been very cordial and very forthcoming and very kind. This episode, it's turned me around on you. But there was a time where I was this fucking guy, fuck him. What's he saying?
I'm actually a big fan of you guys. Like I love listening to your guys' podcast. It cracks me up every time I listen to it.
Well, likewise, I've enjoyed what I've heard of you. I think I've listened to, I don't know, half a dozen, maybe a dozen episodes you guys have done. And again, it's because I don't listen to podcasts. It's not personal. I just don't listen to them. But I've really enjoyed, a lot of the stuff I hear, man. You guys are great. I enjoy your show, and I wouldn't be here recording with you if I didn't love it.
Well, thank you.
Oh yeah,
thank you
for sure. I know, right, man? So I'll pay you $50. Come over, I'll fuck you in the ass.
Yes,
it'll be fun.
All right, so they can find you. They can find you everywhere. They can find you everywhere. Everman, Evergreen Man. What is your hashtag?
Hashtag Evergreen Man.
There it is.
Which is an old TV saying.
Yeah.
Keeping it evergreen. Yeah, it was wherever, man. I think we got some old stuff on YouTube. Don't listen to that shit. Go listen to Spotify. We're on Spotify. It's where everybody listens to us at. Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Right.
Subscribe, listen, be one of the millions and millions and millions of listeners we have.
If you're one of our 7 listeners, you can find us. Alex, where can they find us at? I forget all of it.
Yeah, you can find us on all social medias, just about. Twitter, I think Soberless, Facebook, Instagram. Don't forget to like, share, comment on all things Soberless Thoughts. More importantly, you can go to the website, soberlessthoughts.com. And my main man on the other side of the mic does have a merchandise website going on, so you can get some t-shirts for us. If you want to go down that route, represent it. That way people go, hey, what the fuck is that on your shirt? And you're like, Soberless Thoughts. You should listen to that shit.
Yeah, man.
So yeah, that's how you can promote our podcast.
You're definitely the Kyle of this show.
Yeah, I'm starting to realize that as we've all been talking, the way you
Mike is the Jeremy and you're the Kyle. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Just the way you were describing their podcast, like, God damn it. I'm Kyle. That's Jeremy. Soberless Thoughts. Obtuse Angles. Same shit.
Hey, guys, thank you so much for having me, man. This has been a blast.
Jeremy, you ever out driving around and you have your windows down and you just roll up next to somebody at the red light and you hear your own voice?
No, but it's funny enough. I've pulled up to a stoplight before and had my window down, and I heard my drums.
Your drums?
Coming through someone. Yeah, it's so funny, man. I didn't mention this. I've been telling anybody who'll fucking listen. I actually joined a band again recently. I played in bands for years. I was a drummer for a relatively successful band. We had some really big shows. We toured a bit. We did a leg of a tour with some national acts, and it was really, I don't know, bizarre. But I pulled up to a stoplight one time and heard somebody listening to an album we put out at full volume, very loud in his little. He's one of those kids that had like a $1,200 car and a $3,000 sound system.
Oh yeah,
the ones that sounds like it's got a trunk full of midgets beating on the side of it and shit.
Yeah.
Never heard my voice. I don't think people ride around bumping podcasts though. At least not ours anyway.
We heard it was some dude in a Jeep Wrangler with his, the top down, all the windows open.
Listening to your show.
Listening to our show. Yeah.
That's great, man. That's very cool. What'd that feel like?
I don't know.
Did you get a boner?
I just started jerking off right there in the car.
I would have. I'd have offered him $50 to fuck him in the ass.
Couldn't even help myself.
And then I'd sign it.
That's right.
Alex, what do we say when we get out of here?
We like to say, when you're in the skillet, you need to stay cheesy, keep it greasy, and flip on out.